Hi, I'm Charlotte and this is Tide Mama Tries to Read. So I'm back. I'm not really gonna not really gonna go into detail about why I haven't been doing videos. Not because I'm particularly a private person, because I'm not. Just because I think it will get boring. I think it's already quite boring for everybody around me. So I think we'll just have to come up with some sort of code for when my anxiety is really bad, and we'll just say, like, I mean, I used a lot of lavender in the last 2 weeks. I'd say like an excessive amount. If there's anything in lavender that could potentially hurt you, then I'm in trouble. So we'll say it was just a high content lavender week in the last week, actually the last 2 weeks. And we'll just leave it at that. So I'm not altogether better. And actually I'm gonna make a bit of a decision about some of the books I'm reading. By the way, I don't know if you can hear it, but it is raining an excessive amount here, even for Wales. It is extremely wet. I don't know what's gone on, but the heavens have opened, and to get in here from the house I had to have like a big raincoat on, and everything had to be put in a plastic bag, and I had to run, and it's literally like 10 yards. So so let's get to it. I have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books that I have either been reading, as in I am like halfway through them, or I've delved in a few pages, and I don't know whether you guys do this, but when I delve in a few pages, I feel like I can't put it back on the shelf, even if I know that it's not the time to read that particular book. But neither do I like seeing it around the house, because it just reminds me of the fact that I was meant to be reading it. So I'm going to go through these reasonably quickly. There's only one that I'm going to dwell upon, and I'll save that till last. So one of them is The Body Keeps Score, Mind, Brain and Body in the Transformation of Trauma by Bessel van der Kolk. And this gorgeous cover with this lovely Matisse was what drew me in. I saw this on Sian's channel of Shani Reads, and I really like the idea of it. I don't necessarily feel like I have a trauma experience in my life particularly, at least not one that triggers my anxiety. My anxiety is triggered by general stuff, and also by my phobia. I have a phobia of being sick. So I wasn't sure how this would apply to me, but I felt like it would be a good place to start. And I am pretty much halfway through, because there's a lot of footnotes. I'm at the bit where you actually, part 5, Paths to Recovery, which is classic of me to stop at the part where it tells you how to get better. I'm going to stop. These ones I'm going to stop because I'm feeling negative about them, because I've built up too many reads. I don't like multi-reading. I feel like every time I look at my books, I'm thinking of all the ones I should be reading. So this is not a reflection of this book. I think this book is very useful, and I'm sad that I picked it up and only did half of it, because I really don't know when I'm going to get to the next half. But for now, it's going away. The only warning I will give for this first part is there are a lot of case studies, and I don't know whether it's a kind of, he's a psychologist, isn't he? I don't know whether it is a psychologist thing, but it's almost like he's kind of become numbed to some of the stories. And although he's trying to paint a picture, I felt like some of the details he was giving about the people's lives were almost gratuitous. It was like, you know, I had this one patient, and she spoke about her childhood trauma, where her father had abused her. And then he'll like give a couple of anecdotes of the abuse that are without any kind of feeling, and it just feels weird. I felt like voyeuristic listening to these stories, and if you had come from a place of trauma, I don't know whether you would hear those case studies and go, oh wow, yeah, I can relate to that, or if you'd be, you know, sent over the deep end, basically. Yeah, and they were all, I think, just he's an older guy looking at his picture, so I think some of the way he phrases some things, so like he talk, and I don't know if this is a science term, but he talks about domestic violence, and he calls it something like relationships with violence. I can't remember exactly now what it's called. Basically it kind of implied that I could see what they were trying to do. They were trying to get away from the word domestic, but it kind of implied that both parties were taking part in this violence, and all of the examples he gave were women being abused. So yeah, little things like that may not be little to other people, but I think the healing things that he was going to show me, which was things like about language and the way it affects you, about inhabiting your body, was one I was in particular really interested in. I think they'd be really good. So when will I pick it up? I don't know. The other one that I was really tiny bit into was How to Be Right in a World Gone Wrong by James O'Brien. This is based on his radio show, I think, where he has phone-ins of people, and he sort of encourages people to be honest about their political leanings, no matter how politically incorrect, and then he kind of slams them in a very intellectual way, but in a very simple way as well. And I very much enjoyed the first part. I was laughing out loud, I was also cringing. It's very much set in Britain, so I don't know how much it would appeal outside of here. And again, I'm sad that I haven't gone further with this, but it's just tainted with the same brush, I'm afraid. Or the next one. I'm sad about the next one. Okay, I wanted this. This was Tana French's The Witch Elm, and my dear friend Katie bought it for me. So I've told her about how I feel about it. I am a tiny way in, teeny tiny. I don't usually read thrillers or crime or anything like that, but I was really interested in the legend of the Witch Elm, which is a sort of, well, it's true in the sense that there was a body found in a witch elm during the Second World War. And it's true that nobody really knows who that body belonged to. But a lot of the sort of mystery that's surrounded it has come afterwards. So I knew that this was a novel that sprung off of that, but I wasn't sure in what way. I just found the writing not good. That's all I can say. I don't know if there are any Tana French fans out there. I don't know. I don't want to offend anybody. But for me, it just didn't work. The men were all meant to be northern, and they were all just constantly swearing at each other. And my dad's a Geordie, and I just don't think that men always talk to each other like that. Little things like that got on my nerves. There were a couple of times where a joke was made and then the narrative kind of explained the joke, and that is one of my pet peeves. Is like, if I'm not going to understand a joke the character has made, you've not told me the joke well enough, or you think I am very, very silly. So I think this might be a permanent ditch, and I am sad about that because I kind of thought I found a crime book for me. Okay, this one is a definite pause. I'm not chucking. This is Ramesh Ranganathan, Memoirs of a Distinctly Average Human Being. Ramesh is an amazing comedian here in the UK. He's vegan, he's sensible, he's a father, he's just great. And this, I was really looking forward to reading. My husband bought me this for Christmas last year, and I wanted to read it before Christmas this year. That's gone well. And the only reason why I've stopped is because, again, it's just got caught up in that whole, oh, I'm trying this, I'm trying that to get back into reading, and then it's sort of been sullied with it. But it was proper laugh out loud funny. I read the first 3 chapters, very much enjoyed. So that is a pause. Then, oh, this one's been hanging about. This is A New Earth, Eckhart Tolle. I am nowhere further than I was in the last 2 videos when I talked about it. So again, I don't know what it was about this that didn't, in some places it was really speaking to me, and then in other places, I don't know what it was. Maybe it just wasn't for me. I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like I've let people down because people really like this. And this is where maybe it's just a me thing, that I'm not very good at taking advice, and that's why I don't like it. I don't know. Also, the idea of being calm all the time not only does not sit well with me as a non-calm person, but I think as well, on a larger scale, wouldn't it be great if everybody embraced this? Because then nobody would argue or have wars or anything like that. But ultimately, at the moment, we live in a world that is not going to change overnight. And so people are allowed to get mad about things, and people are allowed to, if someone else is hurtful to you, you're allowed to pull them up on it and be mad about it and be hurt by it. It's part of being human, and I don't think it should be your responsibility to sort of chill the situation because you know that it's not really them talking, it's their ego or whatever. So I don't know. I'm sort of 50-50 as to whether that will ever get picked up again. This is a really, really good book, so don't let this put you off reading it. This is Pleasure Activism, The Politics of Feeling Good, which is written and gathered by Adrienne Marie Brown. She writes a lot for Bitch magazine. She is a queer writer of colour, and she's awesome. She's an extremely clever lady. This is all about, well, kind of I read this with Sian and Mercedes, and when I say read this, I mean I got just over halfway. Sian finished it. I don't know if Mercedes has finished yet. The pleasure activism bit, we were all unsure what she meant. I was kind of thinking that it would go into all different kinds of pleasure and the way that we can maybe change the world through positivity and change our inner world through positivity, which I was all for. In some ways, it very much focused on pleasure as in sex, which I kind of should have realised as there's animals having a lot of fun on the cover. But I kind of felt like it really focused a lot on that, and also drug taking. So maybe it's just because I didn't finish and there was more to it. I really enjoyed the drug taking section. I thought it was very well argued. She had some great voices coming in there. It's a very diverse book when it comes to the voices that she brings in. I don't think you could get a much more diverse book than this. So in that sense, it was really eye-opening. It kind of made me feel a little bit boring because I'm married to just one person, and some of the chapters are kind of like they even have homework at the end that you've got to go out and do, which because Sian is quite wicked, she was enjoying asking me and Mercedes how much of the homework we had done that week. So yeah, I think it maybe just it rightfully excluded my experience, which is totally fine. But because I was having a really hard time connecting to books in general, that wasn't a great time for me to feel excluded. And it opened my mind up to loads of other things, which was really interesting. But we all felt that this link of pleasure activism was kind of weak, and we needed something else to hold all the essays together. But the essays and the extracts and the interviews as they are were just awesome. So I definitely recommend it, and I'd like to think I'll read that. It's the only one well, it's not the only one because there's a few I'm keeping, but it's one of the ones I've ummed and ahed about as to whether I will just carry on with it. Okay, and now we come to the big guns. Okay, this is Sad Times. This book is astonishingly brilliant. Okay, this should be a review of me saying that this is the book of my life, that this is something that you should all go out and read, that Lucy Ellmann is a genius. She's a trailblazer. She's just gone out and done stuff that you'd have to have massive balls to go out and do. Or ovaries, as is more appropriate. But the problem is she's done it so well that it's like being in my head, and I am really trying hard not to be in my head at the moment. And so I found it, I don't know 100% how triggering I found it, because I've had a bad month anyway, but I kind of feel like I had a pretty awful anxiety attack, and I'd had my lunch break in work, and I had been reading this, and I just read a bit about the Sand Creek Massacre. If you don't know what that is, just Google it, because I'm not going to trigger anybody by going into it now. But it's a pretty horrific incident in Native American history, and I had just read a fairly awful part, and then I went off to have my lunch and had a bit of a meltdown. So I don't know exactly, you know, I'd been building up to one for days, so I don't know, I can't blame it all on ducks. But she does, you know, if you want an insight into the life of an anxious mother, then you've got it right here. How it feels to be really just consumed with a low-level sense of dread all the time, regardless on how beautiful the day is, regardless on whether you've watched the news or not. And I do not watch the news, to my shame, because I can't handle it. You can't help but know about things that are happening in the world. And even though the mother in Ducks Newburyport is very busy, she's got 4 children, she's had cancer, she works from home, she's really flat out, but she's constantly worrying about the state of the world. She's worrying about the future, she's worrying about the past. But she's also just massively clever. And I don't want to say it's just a book about worry, because it's not. It's a book about what we've done to the world. And I think in that way it inspires you to want to change what we've done. And I am just really devastated that I only got 300 pages in before this happened. Because it is brilliant, and the bits in between that break up, if you wanted clarification, presumably if it continues the way it has, it's actually one sentence, but it's broken up into these parts. I believe 8 parts, because that's what I've heard. But it's not 8 separate sentences. It is all one sentence, to my knowledge, and it's broken up by these little interjections of a mountain lion and her cubs, and those parts are just amazing as well. So you can see that she can do anything. I'd love to read her other stuff, just maybe not yet. So yes, these books, I don't know what to do with them. they're not going to go on my shelf because they'll just taunt me. I think I'm going to put them in a box in here and quite literally put a lid on it and just wait and see how I feel. Maybe in 2020, maybe take one out at a time and try and get through one. As I say, a couple of them might be just going, but I don't think this will be coming out in 2020. I think this might be coming out in like 2040. But I'm actually going to put this on my shelf because I did love these 300 pages. I definitely think it would have been maybe even my book of the year if I'd been able to finish it. So yeah, sad times, but I really enjoy listening to all of the other reviews that are coming up on YouTube now about this book. And if you've read it or you're reading it, I'd love to hear what you think. If you've ever had a situation where you've got loads of books on the go or you feel overwhelmed, have you done a big DNF? Yeah, let me know. Okay, I'm gonna go. I hope you're all well, and I'll see you soon. Bye.